Okay, we are now recording. Hey, Farrell, good to see you. Hi, Bjorn from Germany. John Collardo, haven't seen you in a long time. Wow, good to see everybody. So, I'm not sure where Lynn is yet. I usually call him on the day that we're going to do this, and I didn't today. We had kind of a crazy morning here, so I didn't get a chance to call him. So Trixie's getting a hold of him right now. Hopefully he'll be on here in a minute. So good to see everybody. All right, let's see what else we've got going on here. Hi, Robin. It's okay. Everybody's muted. Robin, we can't hear you. No, on the webinars, everybody's automatically muted and nobody can talk in a webinar unless we really make an effort to make that happen. We don't have the chat enabled, but you guys can all go ahead and communicate via the Q&A. The reason we do that is because it allows us to better track the questions, because when it was in the chat before, it would zip up so quickly that we couldn't keep up with it. So we knocked that out and we set it to a webinar, because that way we're not limited to 100 people and we can ask questions this way. So if you have any questions, let's go ahead. Hey, Daniela, good to see you. All right, really great to see everybody. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss these so that as the questions come up, I can go ahead and see the questions. I hope you guys have some questions for me today. Did everybody see that this month for Halloween, on the 17th of the month, I'm going to be doing a 1-hour thing about ghosts and ETs and other dimensional beings and Bigfoot and all that sort of thing. I don't know if any of you saw that, but hopefully you did. Trixie, have we sent that out to the general public yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well,
I just spilled the beans then, didn't I? Yeah, we are going to be doing, it's going to be really fun. Usually on Halloween, not on Halloween, but for the month of Halloween, I usually try to do something that's kind of in line with that. And so this month on the 17th, I'm going to be talking about about ghosts. And a lot of times people ask questions, even in this group, people will ask questions about ghosts or ETs, viewing other planets, interdimensional beings, things like that. And so I thought, well, why don't I do a 1-hour class on that? So I'll be doing that. And then next month in November, Trixie, do you have the date for November, when we're doing it? I think we're doing it kind of towards the end of the month, if I remember correctly. But we're going to be doing one that you definitely won't want to miss either. And that one will be on how to get in touch with your future self, working through the body. And it's a really cool technique that I only actually recently developed, but it works really super well. And I think you're going to love it. So be sure and join me in November for that. So I think a letter, if you aren't in Club PRV, if you're in Club PRV, you already know about October's, and you'll be getting a letter in November that will give you the link and everything. But if you are not in Club PRV, be sure to be on the mailing list, because then you'll get a letter and it'll show you the registration and all that. And these classes for people who are not in Club PRV are always $11.11. We wanted to make them really affordable for folks. So just $11.11. It's a 1-hour class. People are really loving it. We thought we would just try it as an experiment. And I think this will be our third one. And we're amazed at how successful they are, in the sense of so many people signing up and joining us and just really enjoying them a lot. So if you like to hang out for an hour live, and you can also bring your questions. It's not a webinar like this. It's a meeting. And so we are limited to 100 people. But the good thing is that I can see you and hear you, and you can hear and see me. So you can actually ask questions in real time. So if you're interested, I'd love to have you come to those. Again, this month is on the 17th at noon Mountain Time, which will be 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West Coast. and 1 p.m. Central Time. This way, the people in Europe get to attend it. It's in the evening for them. So we'd love to have you come. Again, it's just a 1-hour class, and it'll be really fun. We're going to be talking about all things spooky and weird for October. Okay, Ramin has a question. Hi, Lori. I have some CRV sessions at home after your 4-day webinar. In fact, I did 5 CRV sessions, including the one in your webinar. And for 2 of them, I was 60 to 70% correct. And for 3 of them, I was completely wrong. I saw absolutely something else. Can you guide me? What's the reason? I tried to follow the protocol that that I taught in the 4-day free class. Ramin, one of the things is that it's very, very normal in the beginning for people to see something completely different than what the target is. And the reason for that is your conscious mind is really used to being in control. It's always been the boss, or it thinks it's been the boss, even though the subconscious mind is really 90% or 99% of who you truly are. So it's the structure of CRV that and the continual practice that eventually leads to accuracy. But first, just like we see a baby having to go through its stages of learning to crawl and learning to walk and learning to talk, your mind, the conscious and subconscious parts, the right brain and the left brain, have to learn to interact together. They have to learn to work together. And that takes some time and some practice. So what I always tell my students is to focus on the structure rather than trying to be right. And if you expect, in fact, I think it was just about 2 months ago that I taught a 1-hour class on why can't I see the target? Because so many people, when they're first starting this out with this, they expect that the picture in the envelope is going to be exactly what they're seeing in their mind's eye, which is their imagination. And when it doesn't match, they think, I totally missed it. But what I found with a lot of my students when we're doing our mentoring club meetings, our club PRV meetings, a lot of times I'll have a student go, oh, I totally missed the target. And then I say, well, let's go over your description and compare it to the picture. And we find out they really nailed the target. But because in their mind's eye, they think this picture from the envelope don't match, I missed it. But and the thing is, remember, what's our mantra? Everybody, what's our mantra? Describe, don't identify. So your job is not to identify the target. Your job is to describe the target, right? So we want to describe the target. And if you describe it, you'll often find that your description matches the picture, even though the picture in your mind doesn't match the picture. So even though you say you totally missed it, you might have missed identifying it. But I bet you if you get into phase 2 and phase 3, which you would learn in the basic 6-week course, that's when you start getting into describing the target rather than naming it. Okay, so that 4-part class was an introduction class where you're just trying to learn how to do ideograms and how to guess the gestalts of the target and get the gestalts correctly. And I bet you got a lot of the gestalts correctly if you followed the protocol. Okay, so there was that answer. Now I'm going to move on. Jay, yeah, I guess you can. I would prefer to stick to CRV because I really hate getting into ARV. It can go on and on forever. But but anyway, let's see. Stone said, oh, thanks, Stone. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. Lori said you didn't see it. Lori, the look in your email for the October. You should probably by now. If you're doing intermediate, you should have gotten the intermediate, but you definitely got the basic. So check with Christy because we want to make sure that you got your letter for the basic assignment for October. It's in that letter. It's in the letter with the basic assignment in it. Hey, Curtis, good to see you. Hi, Faith from Germany. Okay, Kathy says she sure wants to attend that one. That's great. Okay. Oh, Kaja, I hope you see it. Yeah, look for your basic assignment letter. It's in the announcements in that letter. Okay, Jim asks what to do about phases where all the ideograms look the same. Focus on the feel as I do them. Anything else? Okay, so one of the things we've noticed over the years is that it's very common for remote viewers to often go through a phase in which all your ideograms look the same. And so if all your ideograms look the same and you go through this phase, you go, oh no, what do I do now? They all look alike. How do I know which gestalt each ideogram is telling me about? Lynn once told me that he went through a phase early on in his first part of his years. He went through a phase in which all of his ideograms started looking like check marks. So actually, believe it or not, it's a sign of growth and development if you go through that phase. Not everyone does. I didn't go through a phase like that, but if they do start looking alike, the thing you can do is start noticing how they feel as you're doing them. You know how we do the ideogram and then we touch it and say, how does this feel under my finger? You can do that. And you can also note how it feels as you're actually doing the ideogram. Because as you're doing it, you'll notice that they don't feel the same. Some might feel liquidy, some might feel sticky, some might feel hard. And I'm not talking about just when you put your finger on the line. I'm talking about as you're doing the ideogram, the action as it's coming out. Ingo frequently talked about the motion feel of the ideogram being one thing. And what he's talking about is as you're making the ideogram, there's a quality to it. There's a sensory part of it that as you're making it, you can kind of, that's how I got over my problem with water. I had a real problem with water and, I just always seemed to miss it a lot. And so since I had a problem with water, I needed to figure out, how do I do this? How can I make this one work? Hold on, I'm going to pin my video here. Okay. So how do I make it work when I always miss water? And what I figured out was that if I would notice how the ideogram felt as I was doing it, I frequently picked up on the water because it had kind of a watery feel to it. I can't explain it any other way, but it felt liquidy or fluid or flowing as I was making the ideogram. And you'll notice how some ideograms come out really hard and jerky, and others feel kind of smooth as you're doing them. Some feel very fluid. So notice those qualities as you're making the ideogram, and it'll make a big difference, even if you go through that phase where all of your ideograms look alike. I hope I answered that question adequately, Jim. Thanks for asking it. I appreciate it. Hi, Michelle Hines. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm just going through this. Okay, Karsten said he got the invitation to the ghost thing, so that's good. I was worrying for a little bit that maybe somehow people weren't getting their basic assignments. Hello, Star from Brighton Marina. Okay, Misty is asking, how can I become a member of Club PRV? PRV stands for Practical Remote Viewing. It's the same thing as Controlled Remote Viewing. I just named them two different things so we could differentiate between the video courses that I teach and the 3-day workshops. But it's all the same content. And Club PRV is something that you can join if you have purchased the 6-week course, any of my courses. If you've purchased any of the 6-week courses, you can join Club PRV. In fact, guys, just to give you a little heads up, in November, we're going to be having the our annual, we don't do Black Friday, but annually we do Psychic Sunday. It's kind of like that, Black Friday, but it's Psychic Sunday. And so we're going to be offering some really good deals on the basic and intermediate courses. And so keep an eye out for that, because one thing that we usually do when we offer that is we offer a free partial membership, like 2 to 4 months long of Club PRV. Anytime you buy the basic course, you get 2 months for free automatically. But usually when we have a sale, we do more. And so there's tons of perks in being part of Club PRV. You can go on the website and look it up. But basically, we have several meetings throughout the month. I give you assignments. I go over your assignments one-on-one, like having me right there looking at your paperwork. And I teach you all kinds of cool things, and you get to attend the monthly class for free, etc. So we have a forum, so you get to know other remote viewers, and it's a community, and so there's a lot of benefits to becoming a member of the club. And then Greg says, who would be the first point of contact on a cold case if I'm using CRV to work these cases? Would they even take me seriously? Greg, if you are choosing to take on a cold case without being asked to do so by the police or by an investigative officer, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of a waste of time unless you're just doing it as a practice exercise. That's why we do not take on any kind of cases involving missing people or things like that unless we're requested to do so by the investigating team. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of time. And you're right that no one would take you seriously. So don't bother. Then let's see. What else? Danielle says, oh, that's my focus right now, connecting with future self and progression. Thank you, Lori. When will that class be and how soon can we sign up? Danielle, we are offering that class in November. And so it will go out to the entire list, which is now, I don't know, it's edging close to 100,000 people, but it will go out to the entire list next month, at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of November. Sometimes it goes at the end of, like, if I'm really diligent, it'll go out at the end of October. But like this month, I think we went out October 1st or October 2nd is when the letters went out. Okay. Pi Nielsen, am I pronouncing your name right? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He says, hi, Lori. Last time you talked about using CRV for helping people make life path choices. Could you please tell more about that? Yeah, I think that CRV is a wonderful tool for life paths. And actually, I guess that got a lot of attention last month when we talked about that, because I've gotten some emails about that. Life paths, if you think about life paths and you think about physics and you think about parallel universes and string theory and all those sorts of things, it's really interesting to try to do a life path for someone looking into the future. So generally, when people ask for a life path, they have a specific question in mind, like they're wondering about their romantic life, or they're wondering about their career. And so doing, anytime somebody's asking a personal question about their lives, I call that a life path target. And it's when someone's looking for a specific answer to a specific question. And so, depending on what that question is, a good remote viewer can do a remote viewing on it. And I've usually done mine pretty blind, not knowing who the customer is or what the question is. And then just doing a life path. And often what I've found is that you'll see multiple options depending. I gave an example, I think last time, about a young lady who was wanting to know about her career. And I observed that there were these men in her life who were really controlling and really, like, just kind of had a stranglehold on her. And that if she didn't get away from whoever this person or people were, that she wouldn't have a change in her life. She would stay in the same exact situation. But that if she did somehow, if she was able to free herself from the stranglehold, that then I saw this whole entire life path unfolding, where she would live in a different country, and I described the area, et cetera, et cetera. She got in touch with me 2 years later and gave me full feedback that the men I was describing, one was her boss and one was her husband, and that she's now married to somebody else. She's living in the exact spot that I described, and she has a new baby, and she was super happy. So life paths, of course, done correctly, can really provide a lot of great information to someone. Let's see. So then, thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that. Linda asks, is this a learning hour or just questions asked? Linda, this is a monthly thing. We do this every month. Generally, Lynn Buchanan is here with me. I feel like it's my fault he's not here because I didn't call and remind him. Trixie, do you have, I'm going to send you real quickly another number for Lynn. Hold on just a second. Okay, just a second, guys. I'm going to, she said his phone, something's wrong with Lynn's phone. So I'm going to send Trixie a different phone number so she can try to get a hold of him while we're doing this. Sorry for the delay, folks. I apologize. Nothing's ever perfect, including people. There we go. Okay, Trixie, try that number. I just sent it to you. See if you can get a hold of him that way.
Okay.
All right. Trixie's wonderful. It's middle of the night for her. She does this every night, Monday through Friday. Greetings from London. I love London, Chris. Okay, esoteric comment. I'd like to know what ETs can tell us about ghosts, earthbound spirits, to clear up all the confusion, assuming they know. Well, Martin, be sure and join me, because that's what we're going to be talking about this month on the 17th. So I won't answer that now because it would be way too long, but we'll be jumping into that on the 17th. Susie asked, do you see the life-changing event that other remote viewers have reported coming to our country soon? Susie, the thing about it, I do see life-changing events coming. I don't try to put a time frame on those, though, because I've found that most time frames fail completely. And I've seen so many people predict, in this month or this date or this year, X thing is going to happen. And I don't like to do that for several reasons. One is that every single prediction that I've seen from other people have always been incorrect on the timing. And I wrote a whole blog about that. And it's called The Timing of Events. If you look for that blog on my website, or if you just Google The Timing of Events Intuitive Specialist, it'll pull that blog up. And it talks all about why, when psychics try to predict, or remote viewers try to predict an event that's coming, why they're so often incorrect. Another thing that I don't like about that is that I feel as if when people do predict stuff, it incites fear, and fear is always paralyzing and demoralizing, and it weakens people because, when you're afraid, you don't have any strength often. You're just like, you kind of get paralyzed. And also, I feel that people who try to predict things, it depends on where their motive is coming from. And I'm not saying everyone has an egoic motive, but many people are doing it from a place of ego. And when it comes from a place of ego, like, I'm going to predict this, and then when it comes true, everybody's going to know that I'm like a super psychic. I feel like that's often the motive, not always, but sometimes. And also, sometimes the motive is, I want to save lives. But we have to remember that we're not God, and that many of the events that we foresee, like I was saying last month, I foresaw 9/11. I had nightmares about 9/11 from the time I was 3 years old, my entire life. And then I ended up being in New York, standing in front of the Twin Towers, just 24 hours before they went down, or 48 hours before they went down. And so we can't play God. We cannot affect and save lives just because we see something. Oops, sorry. And I mentioned I have one of these desks, and if you don't put the lock on, it goes up and down. Anyway, so I mentioned how Jean Dixon tried to save JFK because she foresaw that he would be assassinated in Dallas. And she tried every which way to warn him, and he still went. So just know that some things are meant to happen. And what I prefer to do is live in the moment, live for today. Today is a gorgeous day. Everything is perfect today. I'm safe today. I'm in this wonderful room talking to you guys, doing the thing I love most. And so today is a wonderful day. And I just have to have the faith that no matter what happens tomorrow or next month or next year, that I will have the grace to get through it. And so I have that faith, and that's what I like to share with people. I feel that we do have a part of creating our own reality, and that as we focus on that rather than on the scary things that might be coming, that's more important to do. Strengthen ourselves now, emotionally and spiritually. Antoine, you said, what is CRV? Go to Intuitive Specialists with an S at the end of specialists.com. And the very first page is exactly the answer to that question. It's pretty lengthy, but it's called, what is CRV? It stands for Controlled Remote Viewing. Carolyn says, I'm interested in what you think about Dick Alger and his remote viewers having seen coming up in the winter of 2023 or early 2024. Thanks. Actually, Carolyn, I don't know. I haven't read it. I haven't seen what they have seen coming up. I have a lot of respect for Dick, though, and his remote viewing. And for Daz Smith, they do a great job. So, but I haven't seen it, so I can't answer that one. Sorry. Hugh says, I'm great with ideograms, but have trouble getting info out of them. Hugh, what I suggest is that as you continue using ideograms, use them for real purposes. Like, you can practice your ideograms. And when you say, I'm great with ideograms, I don't know what that means, because if you're having trouble getting info out of them, it indicates you might not be great with them. But what I would suggest is that you start using ideograms to actually use them for real purposes, to get answers like quickly. And there's a whole way to do that. I don't know if you're taking my courses and attending Club PRV meetings, then we dive deep into all of that. So I hope that you can do that if you haven't already. I know your name's really familiar. Let's see. Then we have Vicky. She says, my question was the first one, not addressed at the beginning, and one being addressed I do not see in the list of Q&A. I don't know what the first one was, Vicky. I've already gone past that. So can you just type your question in for me? Thanks. Then let's see. Then we have Jorn says, when or how do I know that the income is part of the target and not part of my imagination? Okay, so you mean the incoming information. Again, but Jorn, that is part of practicing and growing as a remote viewer. You learn to separate true perceptions from imagination. You learn what to garner from the stuff that comes in from your imagination, because a lot of that is good information, but it's not always literal or specific. So for example, I might see a circus in my mind, and everything is predominantly red and there's a lot of activity. And I think, oh my gosh, the target is a circus. But then when I open the envelope, the target's not a circus, but a lot of the elements from what I saw in my mind are part of the target. There's a lot of activity, a lot of the same colors and things like that. So as you grow and mature as a viewer, you start learning to separate things, and you also start noticing the quality of the perceptions and how some perceptions come with a quality that you recognize now as imagination, and some come with a quality that you perceive as being accurate information. And so it only comes with practice and time. Kristen says, thanks for the invite. Spirit told me to join. Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here, Kristen. Ramin says, thanks a lot, Lori. I look forward to get the basic course. I look forward to seeing you. Thanks so much for joining. And then Misty, I answered the how do I join Club PRV. You first have to, the reason you have to be a student to join it is because in Club PRV, we're specifically teaching CRV, and we assume that the students have taken the course and we're going along that way. If we have people join who haven't taken the course, then they don't know, they'll be lost because they aren't taking the course. So that would be. Okay, let's see. Then here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, folks. Trixie has tried. She's unable to reach Lynn. I can, after I get off the call, I have phone numbers for his son and his daughter-in-law, and I can get a hold of those and make sure he's okay. Barbara says, the physicist Nassim Haramein has a theory. Oh, Barbara, I saw your email. I love this question. He has a theory that remote viewing is done by accessing a field of information within you, not outside yourself. He says that all the information of all the particles in the universe is networked to every particle, and you must be able to interact with the field to pull out the info. Have you heard of this, and what do you think? And this is from YouTube, The Field of Boundless Information. Barbara, I have to say that I believe there's something to that theory, and here's why. In my own experience, I've experienced reality as being very holographic, and that I feel like this reality that we are experiencing is not exactly as it appears to us, and that consciousness, it's all about consciousness, that we all live in a field of consciousness, and that consciousness itself is what we think of as being God. And so if you think of God and consciousness as being equal, I feel that everything we're all experiencing is all God experiencing reality for itself, rather than saying himself or herself. That consciousness is experiencing life through us and through these physical bodies. And so I feel like it's not necessarily a question of being inside or outside, though, Barbara, because I feel like that too is an illusion. But more that it's that we're all in this field of consciousness, and it's like a big web that's all around us, including time. The time is all around us, and time is happening all at once. And so therefore there is some truth to that, but it's not quite on the money in the sense that it's not a question of being inside or outside. I hope that that was helpful. All right, then Vivian says, I have a question about RV. Is there a reason why my images I'm reviewing change fast? Yes, Vivian, the subconscious mind is lightning fast. And so when things are coming through really quickly, and it's hopefully not just in images, but hopefully sounds, smells, tastes, perceptions of shapes and sizes and patterns and positions, and every sensory and every perception of dimensional things, plus concepts coming in like, ooh, it feels political, or oh, that feels really touristy, or this is really scary, or things like that. All of these perceptions, it's like you're opening yourself up to a whole field of perceptions when you're remote viewing, and you're not limited by time or space. So not only are you opening yourself up to a whole field, but you're also experiencing everything in time and space, and you can travel to various time perceptions because it's all around you, like time surrounding you in a big bubble, and anything in time is right there. So I hope that that's helpful for you. That everything is going to come really fast when it's coming from the subconscious mind. All right, then we've see Misty. If you are one of my students, or Misty, are you one of my students? Are you taking the 6-week course? Regardless whether you are or you are not, you can always write to support@intuitivespecialist.com, and Trixie can help you, or Tanya can help you, depending on when you write. And if you're not yet one of my students and you want to get the invitation, it hasn't gone out yet to the general public, but it will soon. We'll be sure and get that out soon. Okay, and then Psychic Sunday. Elizabeth's asking about Psychic Sunday. Psychic Sunday is something we do every year after Thanksgiving, Elizabeth. So we will be probably start sending out emails about the week before Thanksgiving, talking about Psychic Sunday. So if you're on my mailing list, you'll definitely get those emails. It'll start coming out the week before. And then Michelle said, hello, I'm not exactly sure what this course is. Hi, Michelle, this is not a course. This is a Q&A that Lynn and I put on every month, a question and answer. She said, I just saw this in my email and I guess I signed up for it, but I'm not sure what it is exactly. Yeah, this is a question and answer about controlled remote viewing. For people who have questions about remote viewing, that's what this is. People just can ask questions. I've been teaching remote viewing now since the year 2000 for 23 years. And normally my mentor, Lynn Buchanan, is with me. We're not sure where he is today, so I'll be checking up on him as soon as I get off on this. Okay, hope that answered your question. Okay, then someone said, can doing CRV help build confidence? And if so, what's the best way to do so? I love that question. Actually, I put out a survey several years back, and I said to my students, I was asking, what do you feel the greatest benefit that you've gained from really becoming adept at CRV is? And the answer predominantly was confidence. I think just the practice of CRV itself, as you practice it and you become good at it, it just inspires confidence in you. You learn to overcome fears, you learn to overcome phobias, you learn what things in your life are false and what are true. You know how we all tend to jump to conclusions and make assumptions and judge and things like that. CRV has a way of really kind of pulling back on those things and just kind of cutting back on those things. So that builds your confidence, just the practice of it, the steady, consistent practice of CRV and doing post-session analysis to really see how your sessions have influenced your life. Then Danielle asked, I will keep an eye out. Thank you, Lori. Also, I really love your ethics, demeanor, and teaching style. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Danielle. I appreciate that. Martin said, can you use self-hypnosis to enhance the learning process for CRV? Martin, I was a hypnotherapist for 14 years, and I truly believe that self-hypnosis is helpful in every area of your life. And I have had in the past, many years ago, when I was doing hypnosis, I had students who would ask me if I would make them CDs to help them listen to something before they would do a session to kind of help make them more psychic or help make them more accurate or whatever. And so I made a lot of those CDs, and the students said it really helped. It helped improve their results, etc. So yes, I believe that self-hypnosis is very helpful for CRV. Lauren is asking, how do we purchase a Life Path session? Lauren, if you are interested in getting one, we now have professional remote viewers that are part of my team. And so when people request Life Path sessions, you could just write to me, Lori@intuitivespecialist.com. I personally won't be doing your session, but you can write to me and tell me what you're looking for. I can help you frame that up and then recommend someone to you that I know is a really good remote viewer to help you with that. Right, then Heidi asks, how does a newbie go about to select their person to monitor the remote viewer? Heidi, it depends. If you're a student and you're working, and you're taking the course and you're in Club PRV, then we can usually find you someone to work as a partner. We consider where you're living and what time zone you're in and all that, because we have students all over the world. We do find that students who pair up with other students progress much faster. If you're not one of my students, you might be studying with another teacher who could help you find a monitor. But I do encourage you to not just look for a monitor, but also to look for someone who's studying remote viewing and also wants to view and have you be a monitor, because you will learn a lot about remote viewing, and your remote viewing will improve when you're also monitoring someone else. You learn so much. So it's great when it's a 50-50 split, and sometimes you're monitoring and sometimes you're viewing, and sometimes they're monitoring and sometimes they're viewing, and it works great. And in a partnership with someone that you remote view with regularly, then you're able to actually really notice and learn about micro movements and all kinds of things. CRV micro movements are fascinating. So I really encourage you to find a partner. Also, if let's say you're not a student and you don't have a teacher, but you've been gleaning a lot off the internet and you want to try your hand at this and you're trying to find someone to monitor you. I did write a book on monitoring. It's the only book on the planet that exists about CRV monitoring. I actually had written a number of mini classes for my students over the years. And my daughter, who's actually here with me, not in the room, but she's here in the house with me, she said, this is a book. You should just make it into a book. So I took all these mini classes and formulated them into a book on monitoring. And I got a lot of great input from Lynn, from Mel Riley, from my wonderful husband, Jim, who's the world's best monitor. And I wrote this little book. It's easy to read. It's not a long book. You can find it on Amazon. It's just called Monitoring. And my author name is Lori Lambert Williams. And so you can find that book. It's $9.99. I think the book is $9.99, if I'm not mistaken. And you can get it on Amazon. And that book, the idea behind that book is so that you could literally have your teenage kid or your spouse or anyone who wasn't interested in CRV and teach them how to monitor just from that book. That's the goal. So I hope that's helpful. Daniela says, Lori, this is what I need, a Life Path target. I think I need a remote viewer to do it. Okay, so Daniela, I hope you heard my answer to the other person who asked that. Just write to me, Lori@intuitivespecialist.com. And I'll try to help you find a remote viewer who can do a Life Path for you. We have a wonderful team of very professional remote viewers. Robin asks, rather than viewing objects or environments, how can we go about viewing correct approaches to a situation? I love that question, Robin. And so in a remote viewing session where you are working, you're already an experienced remote viewer. If you're doing it for yourself, it's more difficult because you might be really emotionally attached to the outcome. So I always suggest to find another remote viewer who's very good and whose talents you're confident about, and then ask that remote viewer, would you like to do a session for me? And then I'll do one for you. And they say, yeah, sure, I'll do a session for you. And then make the front loading. The target is the best approach to a situation. Describe the target. And then have the viewer view that. That's great front loading. Doesn't give them any information, but it does let them know what you need, and it can go from there. Luis asks, hi, Lori, are guide dogs the only ones who can sense non-physical human presence, or do all dog breeds can? Also, are there other animals that can do the same, and is there data? Okay, so Luis, as far as I know, we don't have any data on that. Dogs, I think animals in general tend to be able to see often non-physical beings and other entities and things. I don't think all animals can see all entities. There have been times where I've clearly been aware that there was something around and my dog didn't even react. And then there were other times when the dog obviously was reacting and I wasn't aware of anything. So I don't think it's consistent all the time, depending on what's going on. So I don't think there's an answer to that specifically. Karen says, is there a link to that ghost class? Karen, if you're one of my students, look for your assignment, your October assignment letter. It's in there. If you're not one of my students, the letter hasn't gone out yet, but when it will go out to the entire list and you'll get it, and then you can sign up there. Someone asked, does anybody else see alien faces during meditation, or am I crazy? LOL. And if so, why is it there? I've seen the same face a few times. Sorry, I can't answer that one. Only you can do that. And one of the great things about CRV is that if you are a remote viewer, or if you know a good remote viewer, you could literally blind task that remote viewer. And by blind tasking, I mean, you don't tell them what the target is. You just say, let's say that yesterday at 3 p.m. you were meditating and that happened. Then you make yesterday's date at 3 p.m. the target time, and you say that was an event that occurred to me. So then you give the viewer, the target is an event, describe the event, including the reasons behind the event, any motives, etc. And that's how you would do that. All right, then Trisha says, hi, I don't see any information on the Halloween session. Okay, so again, Trisha, if you're not a student, you haven't gotten that yet, but if you're on my mailing list, you will get it. And if people are not on the mailing list that are attending this and would like to be, just go to my website, intuitivespecialists.com, and you'll see all sorts of places where you can sign up to be part of the mailing list. You can sign up for the free class. I have a free 4-day class on there. It's not a 4-day, it's a 4-part class. It's like, I think it's about 4 hours. You get a link every day for 4 days, and you can sign that, and automatically will put you on the mailing list. There's also another free class called Secrets of the Ancients that you can sign up for, and you'll see that along the right-hand side of the homepage when you go to the website. Again, it's intuitivespecialists.com. Hi, Ellen. Last we met, you said learn and experiment on rippling water instead of bending a spoon, as it's more movable. I don't remember saying that. I don't know what that's talking about. I've been trying spoons since I was 12. I don't know if I rippled water, if the tiny motion was my imagination. I did, however, find some information about the field surrounding matter and how it can be affected. Rupert Sheldrake did some interesting research. There are videos on the subject. Okay, great. Thank you. Since that's not a question, I'm just going to keep moving. Thank you so much, Jim. Jim put a question. Jim McFarland put a link, I'm sorry, to the timing of predictions blog that I mentioned. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and check that out. And oops, I hope I didn't make that disappear. Sorry, I should have left it there. Anyway, Carolyn asked, greetings from, Bolsover, Derbyshire, UK. Greetings, Carolyn. Ramin says, Lori, how can I ask if you do a CRV session for having intuition about life path? Oh, Ramin, I'm so sorry. I just have too much going on right now with running this company and teaching thousands of students and creating new classes and taking care of my Club PRV people and doing free webinars. So right now I don't accept any for myself, but again, you can write to me and I will try to help you find someone who can do that for you. Vicky Scott, just wondering how long to allow for grading a final after module 6. Okay. Okay, so Vicky, just write to me and I'll get back with you because you're my student, so I'll be sure and get back to you on that. We usually allow 2 weeks. And sometimes I get behind. All right. Ian's asking any tips on forming new ideograms. Ian, if you keep practicing, first, there's 2 things. One is if you're continuing to practice, new ideograms will start forming spontaneously. And then you'll have to figure out what your subconscious is trying to tell you with those new ideograms. And you'll have to look and see if by looking at the feedback, if you can tell what that new ideogram is telling you. And the next thing, another thing about forming new ideograms is that you can, let's say you go, well, gee, in my life right now, I need an ideogram for animal. And so you say, well, I don't know what new shape to come up with. Go online and look up shorthand. Greg's shorthand manual, for example, that's GREGG, Greg's shorthand manual, and it'll pull up all kinds of symbols that you could borrow as an ideogram for a certain thing that you want to come up with. I found that the Greg's old shorthand manuals, when my mom passed away, I found her original shorthand manuals from 1940. And yeah, I think they were like 1940 or 1945 or something. They were about this thick, really, and about this big, little tiny books full of these wonderful symbols that you could use. I thought, man, this would be great to use for ideograms. But remember, though, the goal of ideogram practice is that it's coming totally spontaneously and just showing up as, just bursting out of, you don't want to try to make anything contrived. Because when you're doing the actual ideogram in a session, if it's contrived, your conscious mind has taken over, and then everything's lost as far as the session goes. So you want to be sure that it's spontaneous and don't try to put too much conscious thought into ideograms. You can come up with a new shape and practice it and say, okay, animal, here's my new ideogram for animal. And you can practice it till it becomes subconscious. But then you want to be sure that in the actual moment of doing a session, that it's coming out spontaneously. You're welcome, Susie. Carolyn asked, oh, okay. Cliff High on YouTube talks about this a lot, but I guess the question was already answered in a previous question. Okay. Yes, a lot of people have been asking me about, everybody's saying there's going to be an event worse than 9/11 coming up. And everybody's asking about it. And that's why I hate it when people put that kind of stuff out. I just disagree with it. I don't think that it should be done. What good does it do to say that to people? Tell me one benefit from saying, everyone, there's going to be an event that's worse than 9/11 and it's coming. How does that help anyone? I don't see how it helps at all. So I personally am really against that. Okay, Danielle asks, I've been a natural channel and psychic medium since childhood. I've always scribbled during readings or energy healings. Any advice for transitioning my natural abilities to more concise ideograms and CRV applications? Practice, Danielle. I have a ton of free stuff on my website all about ideograms. If you go to my website at intuitivespecialist.com, look for a tab that says free stuff and just watch everything in there. Watch and read everything under the free stuff, and you will gain. You'll get all the answers to that right there. And then Brian says, I have a pool of dozens of targets and I add to it regularly. Oddly enough, I often pull the same target over and over, no matter what I do to grab one at random. Is it serendipity? Is my subconscious or whatever trying to tell me something? What gives? Brian, we have found the same phenomenon because, back in the olden days, we used to make all of our targets physically with paper and cut it out from a magazine and glue it down. And, Lynn has stacks and stacks and stacks, and I have stacks and stacks and stacks of these physical targets. and we would have them on a table. And what we noticed, interestingly, was that there would be a phenomenon where, for example, a student would come in from Mexico, and there would be a big stack of targets, and I would say, okay, choose a target, give me a number between 1 and 20, and they'd say 15. Say, okay, do you want me to choose from the top of the stack or the bottom of the stack? And they'd say, oh, from the bottom of the stack. So then I would take the targets into another room. I would count 15 up from the bottom and pull it out, and it would be all about somebody from Mexico. Or Lynn had a student who was terribly afraid of boats and water. So Lynn went through a stack and tried to make sure he took every single picture of boats and water out of the stack. And then he tells the guy, pick a number, between 1 and 20. Anyway, the guy picks this random target, and it happened to be the only target with boats and water that Lynn had somehow missed. I had a student come in from Hong Kong. She chose a target from Hong Kong. I had a student come in from South Carolina. She chose a target of racial problems in South Carolina. I mean, it was just like uncanny. I don't know. And then Lynn always had a stack on his table, and every time I would come in and pick one, I always got the same target over and over. And it was the book burning in Alamogordo churches had a book burning, and I would pick that target over and over. And the good thing is that it's good practice for you to have to view the same target over and over again. When you're blind to the target and you don't know what it is, and you're like, did I already view this? And you have to deal with that. It's actually good practice for you. It's not a bad thing. Kaja says, do we have a meeting time? Yes, we do, Kaja. 6 p.m. tonight, we have a Club PRV meeting. And it's target A for the basic. And if you can't find your link to it, just support@intuitivespecialist.com. Trixie will get it to you right away. I hope you can join us. It's going to be fun tonight. Okay, so let's see. I'm skipping over ones I've already answered. Oh, Misty says she took the basic course. Great, Misty, that's wonderful. If you are in Club PRV, you might have taken the basic course, but if you're not in Club PRV, then you would not have received yet your invitation. So just write to support@intuitivespecialist.com. Then Trixie can help you get into Club PRV if you want. If you've taken the basic course, you can definitely get into the club. And then and if you haven't taken advantage of your free 2 months, you can do that now. And then you will get all the letters and all the things. All right, let's see here. Trying to work through this. We've got 4 more minutes. Is there anything besides more practice that helps you with phase 3? Valerie, it depends on what your problem with phase 3 is, because phase 3 for me in the very beginning, I remember I was kind of mystified, like, what am I supposed to do? But basically, phase 3 can be anything from just scribbling, just doing a quick few lines on a piece of paper that you then touch and try to get information from, to doing, detailed drawings. So there's a pretty broad margin of what phase 3 can be. And again, practice is the key. Practice and then post-session analysis after you've done your session. Chris says, is there a date or time frame when advanced and ARV courses will be available, as well at what price? Good question, Chris. That is something that we are making great progress on, and I'm the biggest obstacle because right now I have my editors are like, Lori, I want you to give me more, more. I need to be going through the videos and giving them timestamps and telling them what to do. They're already recorded. We're just in the editing process. So I'm hoping that they'll be out in the next couple of months, but I have had constant visitors. The last 3 months have been a time of great joy because my family we have a huge family, 9 kids, 22 grandkids. Family's been visiting. I have another 3 visits coming up. And that is actually keeping me from getting as much work done as I want, but it's also really been joyful. I'm 66 and I'm really been enjoying having this time with my family. But I'm really determined to get the editing done with my wonderful editors that the universe has supplied. So just know that we are working on it as quickly as possible. And I don't have any more information for you than that right at the time, but it should be soon, next few months. What role does astral travel play as we practice? What role does astral travel? Astral travel plays 0 role in CRV. there is a huge difference between out-of-body experience and doing controlled remote viewing. I wrote a blog on that. What's the difference between OBE and CRV? And so you can go to my website at intuitivespecialist.com and go to the blogs, and you'll see a whole blog about what the difference is between CRV and OBE, but they're not the same at all. Okay. Thanks for the suggestion, Chris. Tom Campbell books. Susan says she's can't wait for the October 17th meeting. Susan, it's so great to see you. Thanks for being here. Yes. Okay. Then we have Star Kennedy. I think that our spiritual selves are bigger than the universes. And when we remote view, we're simply moving our viewpoint to the part of our greater self that is near the target. Yeah, I think that intention plays a big role. And that literally we're boundless. We can just say, I want to be here, or I want to see this, and boom. And we're only limited by doubt and by our self-imposed limitations. And Missy says physics talk about matter arises from consciousness and the universe is conscious. I believe that too, Misty, completely. Kaja says, sorry, Lori, I found the email that says we will have a meeting. Yay, you found the email. Good deal, Kaja. I'll see you tonight. And then Banan asked, do police services use your services? Yeah, Banan, I worked with the police for 2 solid years on missing people, and I got really, really burnt out. And the answer is that police use remote viewers all over the world. Certain police are open to it, others are not. But the answer is yes, they use our services. They use remote viewer services everywhere. My company is primarily an education company. We do a lot more teaching and training of remote viewers than we do doing a ton of remote viewing services. We're branching out. We've got teams of remote viewers who are right now working on operational projects and gaining a lot of expertise in that area. We have other viewers who are already fully experienced in operations. So when requests come in, I can then find the right people to do the job. Carolyn asks, David Icke says we're in a matrix or simulation, time's not linear. He also says we can see it easier as we begin to wake up. The events from the last few years are waking people up and things are getting crazier. Yeah, that's true, Carolyn. Another Carolyn says, I'm studying animal communication. I'm able to envision things. I see them as I would if I were reading a description in a book, but I only occasionally see them. I'm wondering whether learning remote viewing can help me with my clairvoyance so I can see more clearly. Carolyn, what CRV does is it opens up all your senses. So prior to me ever hearing about CRV, I had natural psychic and mediumship experiences my whole life. And CRV really helped me to hone those, direct them, control them, and be able to use them at will a lot better than the spontaneous stuff that had been happening my whole life, and really opened me up in every area. I have a lot of students who are professional psychics and mediums, and they all say that learning CRV has really helped them to hone their ability. And even Pam Coronado, who's quite famous and has been a famous psychic and medium for many years, she says that CRV has quadrupled her abilities. So that's all I can tell you, but I think that it's a great thing for anyone to study. And then, okay, so Jay Allen, can you write me that question? Because since it's an advanced question, I don't think we're actually over time right now, so I don't think I'll be able to answer it here. But just write me, Lori@intuitivespecialist.com. And then also you could put it in the forum, the advanced forum too. But let me know that it's there so I'd be sure to answer you. Okay. Vivian, I did answer your question. I don't remember. I've already deleted it, so I don't remember what it was anymore, but I did answer it. I hope he's okay too. I'm concerned. Okay, Christina, to join the mailing list, please go. We aren't allowed to add you to the mailing list. You have to add yourself. There's all kinds of GDPR laws now. So go to my website, intuitivespecialist.com, and either sign up for a free class, or there's also a little place on the sidebar way down where you can sign up for a newsletter, and that puts you on the mailing list. There's 2 free classes and then a place to sign up for the mailing list. So there's 3 places where you can sign up for the mailing list. For people who struggle with visuals, I heard that the image streaming technique practice can do wonders. Are you familiar with this? And do you have any tips to improve visuals? No, I don't. And actually, we find that focusing too much on visual images can often really mislead a lot of viewers. Calling this remote viewing is misleading because people expect to see the target exactly as it is. And instead, what pops in, those visual images are frequently incorrect, misleading, or they have information that's accurate, but they are not the target, because our goal, again, is describe, don't identify. So we try to focus not on visuals, but on all the sensories: sight, smell, sound, taste, the perception of dimensional things like sizes, shapes, patterns, positions, and on things that are intangible, like political, touristy, creepy, things like that. Jim says, if we were going to use CRV lovingly to check on family members as CRV targets, how could we reliably overcome the problems with front loading, emotional attachment, and pollution? What are 3 or 4 key methods to use? Oh, that's a great question, Jim. I used to check on family quite a bit using CRV. I don't do it so much anymore, but when my kids were growing up, I did it all the time. And what I would do, literally, I usually actually used ERV as a way to check on them. That's extended remote viewing, which you kind of do in a hypnagogic state. And my husband would sit by the bed and I would lie down and I would say, okay, I'm going to focus on Dustin. I'm going to see where he's doing right now. And then I would just kind of let myself mentally travel to where he was. And then I would try to just describe what I was seeing without using too many nouns, because the nouns are where we get off. That's where we go off base. So rather than naming what he was doing or naming what I was seeing, I was describing it. So I was like, I was seeing a lot of males gathered in a huge room, and they were all moving giant white boxes. They all seemed to be carrying these huge white boxes and box shapes. And it turned out that at that moment of time, he was in a warehouse with a bunch of military guys because he was in the military, and they were moving washing machines in a warehouse. So, and then, so there's a lot of ways that you can just kind of tap into where they're going, what they're doing, or even plans and intentions. If you had children and you were worried that they were going to get into drugs, or what were they planning? The problem with it most of the time is that as parents or as loving relatives of any kind, we can often be way too emotionally involved to get accurate information. Because again, fear will shut you down. So like if I'm afraid my daughter's dating a drug dealer, for example, and I try to remote view the guy to see if he's a drug dealer, well, my suppositions and my fears are going to get in the way and taint everything, right? So it's really a good idea when you have something like that, and you want to lovingly check on someone. If you have someone you trust that is a good remote viewer, someone you're close to, then it's a great idea to exchange targets with them. I always say exchange because it should be a give and take. You don't want to always be taking, right? You want to give as well. So, you could say, hey, I have something I need remote viewed. Would you mind doing this for me? And I'll do one for you. And then, that's a great way to pay each other back and help each other. So that's another great reason for having a community like Club PRV, because we can get to know each other and help each other with sessions. So I hope that that's helpful. I didn't give you 3 or 4 key methods to use because I don't know. I mean, remote viewing is a method, ERV is a method. So I don't know that I have specific checking in on family methods, but I feel like that's the best way to do it. Cynthia Meyer says, Lori, if I can't be hypnotized, will that affect my progress in PRV? Not at all, Cynthia. Not at all. And personally, I don't believe anyone can't be hypnotized. I don't believe that there's anyone on the planet that is unable to be hypnotized, because as a hypnotherapist, I used to get people all the time who said, well, I can't be hypnotized. And I did great. I hypnotized them. And you don't realize it, but you're actually hypnotized several times a day. And all hypnosis is when your brainwaves slow down into the alpha state. And they do that several times a day. So you are hypnotized. Even if you feel like you can't be hypnotized, you actually are many times a day. And it would just take someone with enough skill that would actually be able to help you get hypnotized if you were interested in that. But apart from that, hypnosis while it's a great thing and there's a relationship in that, the fact that we're accessing the subconscious mind, hypnosis is not a part of PRV in any way. So you don't have to be able to be hypnotized to do well in PRV. Oh, Vicky, I did not see that email. If you sent it to Lori@intuitivespecialist.com. So if you would resend it to me, so it puts it at the top of my inbox, because I get hundreds of emails. So it might have fallen through the cracks. Last week I was out of pocket for about 3 days, so I got really behind on email. So just resend it to me and I'll take a look at it. All right, great, Heidi, thank you. Let's see. Okay, I know we're a little over time. I'm just going to look through these really quickly. Oh, Christina asked, what's the difference between Akashic record reading and remote viewing? They're two different techniques. They're two different techniques completely, but I do believe that all the techniques, whether it's tarot reading or runes or crystal balls or psychometry or CRV or ERV or ARV, all these techniques are tapping into the subconscious for answers. So they all have that common denominator, but they just use different techniques. So it's like saying, what's the difference between karate and judo? I hope that helped. Then Ashley says, I've read Boundless and was wondering why there's no phase 2 book. Oh, just because I am slow, Ashley. I'm about halfway through it. So I'm trying, again, I have a million plates spinning plus running the business. So I just have too much to do all the time. And at the same time, I work hard to have a good work-life balance, so that I'm making sure I'm getting enough rest. Someone once told me, you are the biggest asset in your company, so you have to take care of yourself. So I just am slow at getting some of these things done, but I am working on them all at various times. Then let's see. Chris asked, Lori, I'm working overseas in Uganda and do most of my remote viewing learning all by myself since I'm working on my own. Any ideas on how to give myself practice targets, but yet stay blind to the target? Yes, Chris, both Lynn Buchanan and I have on our websites a huge plethora of targets to view, and we make it so that you can't see the target unless you push a button to see the feedback. So if you go to my website and go down to the bottom of the page, the very bottom of the homepage, you'll see in the center column at the bottom, it says RV targets. So free RV targets on intuitivespecialist.com, and on Lynn's website, if you go to his free resources and go down there, you'll see his targets of the week. That's a huge bank of free targets, and that's at crviewer.com. Thanks so much. Jim McFarland put a link to the monitoring book, folks. It's right there in the chat. And Heidi says, I will look for that book. Excellent. Paul Roberts says, Lori, I understand you've written several books, but I can't locate anywhere. Are all your books available for purchase somewhere? I've written 2 published books, and I have a 3rd one coming out. And they are all available on Amazon. And I have an audiobook coming out. Guys, for those of you who are still here, we're 12 minutes over, but for those of you who are still here, we're going to be doing a big audiobook launch for anyone who's interested in being on the launch team. And I'm going to be sending out an email in the next day or so, either today or tomorrow, in which I'll be inviting everyone on my mailing list to fill out a thing if they want to be on the launch team. And we've got this really cool little automated survey thing that I'll be sending a link to, where you click on it and you can choose the dates you want to participate and how much you want to. There's different levels of participation. You'll be able to choose that. And we're just going to make it really fun. We just want to launch this audiobook. We're not, it'll be on Find Away Voices. That's a audiobook platform. It'll be on Audible. It'll be on all the different audiobook platforms, so that anyone can buy it on any platform. So also Paul, my book name, my author name is Lori, Lori Lambert, Lambert Williams. And so if you looked for books by Lori Williams, you wouldn't find them. But if you go Lori Lambert Williams, then you'll find my books. And the 2 books that I've written are called Boundless, and the other is called Monitoring. So look for those 2 books on Amazon and you'll find them. Let's see. So Ramin says, I heard listening to some frequencies will enhance. Okay, Ramin, regarding listening to frequencies like Monroe things, some people find that immensely helpful. Others find that it gives them a headache. I'm one of those who gets a headache from them and they don't help me at all. But my husband loves them and feels like they really help him. So it just depends on the individual. Oh, Daniela asked, please write the email address. Okay, Daniela, I can't, well, I guess, Jim, can you type it in there if you're still here? Intuitive Specialist, or Trixie, you're here, Trixie, intuitivespecialist.com, so people can see what the email address is, and then also Lynn's address of crviewer.com. So keep a look in the Q&A. If you guys can see the Q&A, it's at the bottom of your screen. You click on it and you'll be able to see all the questions. I hope you can see them. But that's intuitivespecialists.com. Let's see. And then Sonali asks, if we can practice together, I hope I can find someone in Indianapolis, Indiana. Okay, so if anybody here is in that area, you can contact Sonali. And then Carolyn Firth, when does your 6-week course run? Carolyn, it is running all the time. You can just go on my website and purchase it and get it like that immediately. The sale, we're going to have a sale on it though, that will be coming up in November on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And if you're on my mailing list, you'll get all the information about that. Okay, Miley, I hope you heard my answer about the second Boundless book. It's in process. Thanks so much, Jim, for putting that in there again. The timing of predictions, there's, if you look in the Q&A, guys, you can see it. Okay, well, I think we've gone 15 minutes over. And Robin said, I know you stated not to ask people in the Facebook group to assist with or view for us. So how is a way to connect with a group that's okay to find practice partners in? So Robin, if you're my student in Club PRV, that's a safe environment to be able to meet other students and find practice partners, and we help with that. If you're not, the reason that I put on the Facebook group, don't approach people to do targets for you, is twofold. One is that you don't know who's going to respond to you, and I don't know them either. There's almost 50,000 people in that group, and most of them are people who are interested in remote viewing, but we don't know their qualifications, whether they're good remote viewers or anything. So, all kinds of people could be part of that group. We try to really ferret out anybody who's not a good person, but out of 50,000 people, we can't check every single person. So to keep you safe and to keep the members of the group safe, we don't allow people to solicit for remote viewing or for partners or anything like that in that group. So if you are my student, we make sure and take care of that. If you're in the group and you're not my student, I can't really help you with that. You almost need to be in some sort of a path of training or learning in order to really be able to find people you can trust, because there's been a lot of deception out there, just out there in the world. I don't mean within the Facebook group, I just mean kind of out there. There's been a lot of bad things that have happened. So we're very cautious, and I'm very protective of my students. I don't let people approach them just willy-nilly. So I hope that, I don't know if that helped much, but okay. Oh, Lynn, thank you so much. Lynn just came in. He said, Lynn here listening on the phone, no electricity at home. So that's why he couldn't join us. Lynn, we're just so glad that you're okay. I'm so glad that you're okay. Thank you so much for popping in and letting us know. I'm just now seeing it because I'm just now getting to this point in the list. Thank you so much. So guys, Lynn's okay. He just, the grid went down, I guess. No electricity at home. All right. Mary is asking, is it like automatic writing with angel spirits, etc.? No, Mary, very, very different than that. I encourage you to take the free class, the free 4-part class if you haven't done it. If you just go to intuitivespecialists.com, you'll see the offer for the free class right there on the homepage. And let's see, Danielle says, I'm on it. I've been on a Lori binge watching spree in spirit, and I'm very happy. Thanks so much, Danielle. That's very encouraging. And for those of you who who like this kind of stuff and want more of it, we do have, both Lynn and I have YouTube channels. My YouTube channel is Intuitive Specialists, and Lynn Buchanan's is just, I think, Lynn Buchanan. So if you just go there, you will find it. Eckhart, I can't answer that question here because it would take too long, but you're my student, so you and I can talk. If you can, I hope you can come tonight at 6 p.m. And if you need that link, just write to Trixie at support@intuitivespecialist.com. All right. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, I'm just looking for some questions that might. Thank you, anonymous attendee. Jim McFarland put the link to the difference between astral projection and controlled remote viewing. If you guys are still here, take a look and you'll see the link. He put it twice in the question and answer, the Q&A. There's a link to the blog about the difference between astral projection and controlled remote viewing. Thanks so much, Ian. I hope to see you soon. Carolyn, thank you. I hope you get to take a course. We'd love for you to do that. All right, describe, don't identify. And that's a great question about the relationship between AI and RV. I really don't feel qualified to answer that question. I have been looking into using AI to some degree to facilitate things for my students as far as getting information in the classes and all that education. AI is a wonderful tool when used properly. We won't use ChatGPT. We'll be using specialized tools developed specifically for specific purposes within a very small framework. So it's not going to be like check the whole internet, because you get all kinds of garbage when you use ChatGPT to do that. But I don't know that there's specifically a relationship between AI and remote viewing. I would say no. Don Johnson's asking, does taking magic mushrooms help? He said, I did some in the 70s. I was psychic for weeks. Don, I can't really tell you that for sure it does. I don't know how psychedelics affect necessarily psychic ability, and I wouldn't say that there's an answer to that across the board, because people are so individual, and so unique. So I would say that depends on the individual. I also believe personally that the setup, they've done a lot of studies now, because now there are a lot of studies on using psychedelics within trauma therapy. And a lot of the research is showing that the setup and the intention and the way the preparation goes, and being in a safe environment, and what your goals are, and how well you set up, and what you eat beforehand, and all these things really affect the whole experience of any kind of psychedelic, whether it's mushrooms or ayahuasca or ketamine or whatever. So I would say that having the right environment, the right therapist, the right guidance, and all that is huge. And I wouldn't encourage anyone to do it without that. Okay, thanks so much, guys. I think we're going to finish up now. It's mostly a lot of people just thanking and putting some great links in there. There's a lot of links in the chat if you look at them. Robert, regarding trauma, write to me about it. Lori@intuitivespecialist.com. Okay, good. So, and Jim put a link to the free course. It's right there, guys. If you are looking, look through the chat, you'll see all these links. Grab these links while we're still on. That'll be great. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Brian. Oh, that's great. Thanks so much, Cara. That's great. Okay. Misty, look through all the links. You'll see them all there. Just look through the Q&A. You'll see them all right there. And thanks so much, Chris. Really, that's wonderful. That's great, Robin. Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you tonight. We'll be back on tonight. Hey, Ryan, good to see you. All right. Thanks so much. So, guys, I'm going to stay on for just a couple more minutes so that, Misty, if you go up in the list, you'll see all the links are still there. You can see them all. And now there's nothing about Akashic records. there's nothing written about the Akashic Records and CRV, but you can see all the other links that are there. Thanks so much, Lynn. I'm glad you're doing okay. Sorry that you haven't had any electricity. And for those of you who are my students, I'll see you tonight at 6 p.m. Love you guys so much. This is my favorite thing to do, is to be with my students and to be with all of you who are interested in all this sort of thing. We'll see you soon.